We are back with you live once again on another Johnnie Torch live broadcast. Yes, broadcast number 177, Torch News Roundup. We bring you today number 155. So, yeah, how are you? How you doing this wonderful Saturday afternoon? The only way to spend your Saturday is here with us on Johnnie Torch live broadcasts. We've got a pretty interesting program, I believe, for you today. This is the broadcast coming to you from a high atop stately Torch Tower, looking over the fair metropolis below. And yeah, a lot of news, a lot of pop culture news. If you're new to the show, we run the gamut of talking about mostly comic and superhero properties, usually live action fare like television, movies, some sci-fi. I'll talk Star Wars. Today especially we got some Star Wars in the news. We got some Star Trek once in a while. Also, you know, just anything I'm interested in, like 80s properties like Cobra Kai, Ghostbusters, Bill and Ted, stuff that stuff that's making a comeback now in the pop culture climate. So there's the spiel. Of course, we always remind you that I myself am a cartoonist, and our book is The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. You can see the titular protagonist there to your left in the gray trench coat and hat. And again, I am planning on doing another broadcast that's going to just be talking about my comic altogether. I don't think I do enough promotion for the book. I mean, it's one thing to open the show every week with a little 5-minute pitch, but I got to do a full broadcast about it one of these days. So I've got that penciled in hopefully a couple of weeks we'll be doing it. When I get through with the remaster of the second issue, which we are in the midst of doing, the second and third issues are being remastered into one big issue. One big graphic novel, and it is going to be the second remaster. The first remaster we did is the one you're looking at right there, the When the Night Comes saga. It's 3 issues, all back to back to back, so to speak. It's the story of Carrot Top and Pencil Neck, 2 of Bullets Bourbon's most dangerous villains, joining forces, and the world is at stake. Action adventure, it's all ages, it's a lot of fun and funny. If if the image there doesn't portray a humorous tongue-in-cheek style, I don't know what will. But we don't take ourselves too seriously, but of course it's not. I always qualify it by saying it's not like a Leslie Nielsen comedy, you know what I mean? There is some substance to it, let's put it that way, but you know, it's all in good fun. And the second remaster is on the way, probably be done by the end of the year, and that is the issue, or issues, where we're turning it into a graphic novel where Bullets meets Pencil Neck, the insidious, evil, mad as a March hare, criminal mastermind. And of course you also meet Scotch, Detective Scotch. That's our character on the right there, with the tan trench coat. He's Bullet's rival, and there's a lot of fun to be had between the both of them, and seeing their interactions. They're like oil and water, so to speak. So be sure to check it out. The link is in the description below, and you can check out The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye on Indie Planet. That is where you can purchase said issues. Once I don't know how interested collectors are in this, but once the remasters are all in, I'm going to close shop on the original pamphlets, the cat spankers, as EVS likes to call them, and we're just going to sell the graphic novels at that point. So if you're a collector, if you're interested in getting these from the beginning, you know, I'm remastering them mostly because I want to put my best foot forward, and you know, the spelling errors bug me, the sort of the coloring not being consistent bugs me, and I want to make sure I give customers the best quality I can. And so obviously once I'm done with that and everything's up to snuff, then the graphic novels will be the only game in town. But, you know, it's basically, I want people to get their value for their money. You know what I mean? I don't want to put anything out there that I feel is, comics are so expensive these days. That's the problem. That's the real problem. I think the other problem is content. The content is not good in a lot of cases. But, you know, like I said before, Alterna, Peter Simeti's company, he's selling books for $1.50, and even when I pick up a book that I'm not really crazy about, you don't really feel like you've just lost money, because it's like, well, that was for $1.50, and I really can't complain. I gave it a shot. And that's kind of the problem, is comics being expensive, and I would really hope that we can get the price down on some of the Bullets Bourbon books going forward in the future. But like I said, I personally, I don't go into comics with collectability in mind. I think comics should be beat up and rolled up and put in your back pocket or whatever. I don't really treat comics like they're gold. That was the problem that we faced in the 90s, where everybody thought they were going to put their grandkids through college by buying 30 different variations of a #1 book that was just coming back out and stuff. That's not for me. I want you to read the story. I want you to enjoy the story. And if you don't enjoy the story, what's the point? You know what I mean? That's what you buy the books for, is for entertainment. And that's my primary goal, is to entertain you. I'm not trying to put out a different, cover and all different kinds of variations and reprints. We're just trying to get that consistent quality throughout the whole series and have it all match uniformly. Alright, so check out The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye in the link in the description below. And you can check out some, I say this every week, you can check out some free preview pages, although I haven't changed them yet. I know I've got the same ones up that I've had up for quite some time. But, it's still there for you to see if you haven't seen it yet. Before we get into the show proper, I want to thank some of my new subscribers. I've been saying I'm going to thank my subscribers for a while here, and if I don't thank everyone by name, it's because a lot of times the names don't show up, or if I miss the email when they say somebody has subscribed, But we're trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers, and now we're at 98 subscribers. Our two most recent subscribers that I'm aware of anyway, the first one is Mohammed Hussein Sheikh. I believe that's how you pronounce your last name. Has subscribed. Thank you very much, Mohammed, for your subscription, and I hope you're enjoying the content. I don't believe he has a channel of his own, because I always sub back to my subs if they have a channel. I mean, if you have like 2 subs and you don't look like you put on any content, I kind of don't feel obligated to sub. But if you want to swap subs out there, by all means, leave me a comment under one of the videos, or find me on Twitter, but we'll get to that in a second. Also, Mkala, I'm following her on Twitter, and she was asking for subs, so I as usual, when I'm following someone on Twitter, it's funny, because there's not a lot of cross-pollination between Twitter followers and subs. I think, to my knowledge, I don't have any cross-pollination there, but if you follow me on Twitter especially, be sure to leave me a comment. And I know Kami Mark did, Not Live Gleason, aka, and that's a great way for us to swap subs. If you're a follower and you say, I got a channel, can you swap subs? That's great. And so I did this proposal to Mkala, and she kindly swapped subs. And I know she has a channel, so go check it out. AMKALA. And be sure to leave her a like on her latest video as well. Alrighty, and you can also tell her that I referred you to her, and maybe some of her subs will come over here. That's kind of the point, isn't it? We want to help each other out. That's the whole thing about having a, a community. I mean, I'm all for helping out anybody that's got a burgeoning channel that you're trying to get going. As I said, I've been at the business here for like 4 years, and I'm just knocking at the door of 100 subs, so if we help each other out, we can all get there, I'm sure. Alright, so now let's talk about my Twitter page, my link in the description for my Twitter page. We have a poll of the week question. We haven't had one in quite a while. I've been excited about this question, though, and I've got 75 votes already. I think a lot of people are excited about the Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries that the CW is putting together. It looks like they're putting everybody under the sun that was more or less in a DC television show in the past 30 years. They're putting them together. The sad thing is, I don't think, like, for instance, we only have like maybe 2 actors left from Batman 66. I don't think we have anybody left from The Adventures of Superman. Phyllis Coates, the original Lois Lane from that show, might still be alive. I'm not sure. But they're getting just about everybody together. And I didn't put this in the show today, the show notes, but apparently they're doing an Easter egg of Michael Keaton's Batman, which I'm sure is a lot of fun. A lot of people are getting excited that maybe Michael Keaton might be in the show, but I don't know. The only actor from a movie that's in the show, it looks like, is going to be Brandon Routh, and that's because he's already a cast member of Legends of Tomorrow. So, of course, that wasn't hard to swing. I don't think you're going to be able to get any of the real big-name actors that, originally were in the show, in the movies, I mean, into the show. But the question of the week is, who do you think will come out best, a.k.a. most screen time, best storyline, etc., in the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths miniseries? So you can go to my Twitter page. The link is in the description below. Vote on this poll. Let me know, who do you think is going to come out with the best story, the best screen time? Who's going to come out the best overall out of all the guest stars? Now, we've got 4 main categories, because these are the ones I'm pretty sure are going to be in the show. They haven't confirmed certain things like Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. I believe since she's somewhat associated with the series, she's on Supergirl off and on as a recurring character, they may be able to coax her back as Wonder Woman. Probably not in the original costume, but since that's still rumor, we really don't have confirmation of that. We're just going to go with what we know for a fact, okay? So the choices are the Smallville cast. We heard that Welling and Erica Durance is signed for the show for multiple episodes. The Flash 90s cast. Now, I said 90s cast, basically wishful thinking. I know Amanda Pays has played Tina McGee in the new Flash series, but as a Tina McGee of a different world. John Wesley Shipp is, of course, the great John Wesley Shipp is going to reprise his role as Barry Allen, aka the Flash. I'm pretty sure that's been confirmed. But like I said, we've had several, the character of Bellows, Alex Desert, who plays Julio in the original show. They have all appeared on The Flash at some point, so if we could get them all together for some kind of, hopefully some kind of scene or storyline, that would be great. As a huge fan of the Flash 90s show, that would be something that I'd be looking forward to the most. Don't know if it's going to happen, though. Alright, and third, we've got the Routh Superman, the Kingdom Come Superman. Is he going to have the biggest storyline? Because, of course, Routh Superman is basically the fill-in for Christopher Reeve. Because Christopher Reeve, of course, did he pass on at the time of Superman Returns? Or I'm not sure if he was still alive at that time. But obviously, of course, with the tragic accident, they were moving on with the legacy with Routh playing sort of his version of Superman. And last place we have the Bat actors, such as Burt Ward, Kevin Conroy, etc. Etc. meaning like the Birds of Prey cast from the original Birds of Prey. I believe the original Huntress actress is going to be involved. So, anyhow, check out this poll. Let me know. You got 6 days left. I just made it last night, so you got plenty of time to weigh in. I'm really excited about this show. I'm sure a lot of us are, and I really want to hear what you think. And be sure you vote and let me know. I've got the chat room open, of course, as always, in case there's any questions. Sometimes I end up forgetting to check the chat, but I try to remember to take a look at it every once in a while. So far in last place with 7% of the vote, 75 votes to altogether, the Flash 90s cast. Yeah, kind of sad. I really hope that they get a big storyline here. In third place with 21% of the vote, the Bat actors, Ward, Conroy, etc. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're going to give to them. What do you do? With actors that are sadly senior citizens now. It's going to be hard to imagine what's going to happen with them. In second place with a tentative, now they've been going back and forth all night, but tentatively in second place the Smallville cast with 35%, and in first place the Routh Kingdom Come Superman at 37%. They've been going back and forth, and I think the odds are that it will be one of them two getting the most screen time. I think probably Routh Superman will have the choice role. I think he's probably going to die, and it's going to be some sort of, it's going to be an earth-shaking experience to think of sort of the hero that started it all. The 30s Superman, the one representing the Christopher Reeve embodiment of the character dying. I have a feeling that's going to be the centerpiece of the show, because of course I'm pretty sure that Barry and Kara are not going to die. They're the two characters that did die in the original Crisis of Infinite Earths miniseries, which, of course, spoilers. But my feeling is that maybe the Smallville cast will come out with the best role, though, because there is a huge following for the Smallville series, and they could be the ones that, pick up the ball and move it, although I still don't see Tom Welling getting in costume. So I really don't know what they could do with that. Alright, so with that all out of the way, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. What? No, oh, we got a whole show to do still. Oh, for a minute there, I felt like we had already done the whole show. But yeah, I tend to get long-winded. That's why, it's hard to do a live show and expect to get a lot of Twitter viewers, because, I mean, a lot of YouTube viewers, but Twitter too, but I mean, you're talking about trying to get people's attention for a full hour. I mean, I shoot for an hour show. Sometimes it goes over by about 10-15 minutes. Sometimes it's comes in under by about 10 minutes. But I treat this more as a radio show. I even call it a radio broadcast sometimes, because that's kind of what it is. It's like you turn it on and you do, your household chores, or you're in the car or whatever. That's kind of the way I see this show. But, I think YouTube was built more for the short, succinct clips that are like 10 minutes. And I tried doing that for a while, but of course, it's easier for me, far easier and less time-consuming for me to just turn on the camera and just talk about whatever we have to talk about all week. And I do have, just like last week, I do have to get out of here to run some errands, but we're going to make sure you are not cheated of a full show today, and I try to be consistent on keeping it on a Saturday, because I could have very easily just done the show maybe tomorrow or something, but that's kind of also a gift to the viewers. I mean, if you want to hear the show live, you got to hear it at the same time every week. Now sometimes the time is a little different. It bounces around between like 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to like maybe 5-6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it's always going to be within that window. And, try to gather a following so that you'll know when I'm going to be on, and you can at least, keep an eye out on my channel or on Twitter for that, because I also try to bring it up on Twitter if I'm going to be on. Okay, so Crisis on Infinite Earths we were just talking about. Here we go, the Torch News Roundup number 155. Crisis on Infinite Earths, the AntiMonitor. We got our first picture of the AntiMonitor. Let's see. I actually don't have any copy for this. I believe the actor's name is LaMonica Garrett. I believe that's his name. I'm not positive, but this is the way he's going to look. A little bit different from the comics. The comics looked like he had just like a big helmet on and fire in the eyes or whatever, but this looks very cool. This looks excellent. And, of course, he is the other equation. You know, the Monitor is a normal-looking dude, you know what I mean? He's like a regular guy. And this is sort of like the Anti-Monitor. He's the opposite. He looks all, you know, his face is all messed up and everything. His eyes are, like, really intense. So this looks really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do here. And I don't want to launch into a full review of the shows because I did get to see the opening episode of Supergirl this year. I saw the first 2 episodes of The Flash. Just briefly, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because, you know, I don't want the show to go on too long. But I was pretty impressed with Supergirl. I think they've kind of focused on what they needed to focus on, which is Supergirl, and they got the Lena story, and Lena sort of descending to the dark side. It felt very much like Peter and Harry from the Raimi Spider-Man films. I think if they focus on that this season and not on the, you know, the build the wall stuff like last season and the coming out story for the season before that and stuff, just focus on giving us a good human story. You know what I mean? The backdrop is something about technology taking over people's minds and stuff. And yeah. You can fit that in the background. That's fine. But, of course, I still hated the woke pants. Supergirl wearing pants. Oh. It's sad. To me, it's sad because that is one of the greatest costumes, the Supergirl costume. Of female heroes, superheroines, I think it's a great costume. And it's just, I know the excuse is, oh, it's Vancouver and Melissa's legs will get cold and this and that, but you know, it's like I said with Stephen Amell with the Arrow costume when he has the bare arms, and then he like ditched that costume because he didn't want to wear it anymore because it's cold in Vancouver and stuff. I said superheroes don't get cold. You know what I mean? You got to man up. And you know, you look at the guys that are playing the NFL and they're playing in a snowstorm and they got bare arms and they're running out there and you know, in blizzard conditions in some cases. You got to man up. Now, you know, in Melissa's case, like I said, it's a little different because she has those thick black stockings that I can't stand as well. So it's not exactly like she's completely at the mercy of the elements. But anyhow, yeah, Supergirl, I give it high marks. I thought it was pretty good for the first episode. I haven't seen the second yet. Flash, I saw the first 2 episodes. Again, I'll try to keep it brief, but the villain is interesting. I've never heard of this villain before. It's the actor from, what was he from? Heroes, I think? That show. Anybody remember that show? I don't know, but he's playing the main villain this year, and he's got some kind of like black Venom type powers or something. Not too sure about that. You know, it depends on what his final form is, right? You know, the downside, I don't like what they're doing with Killer Frost. They're sort of, you know, they're nerfing the look. She doesn't have the eyes anymore and the voice, and they're kind of trying to integrate her as sort of. They're sort of trying to like the melding of her and Caitlin, Frost and Caitlin. I don't know. I just don't like what they've been doing with her. From the beginning, I always thought she would be better as a tragic character, and they're playing her more as, you know, that kind of age-old thing where the happiness between the two personalities, you know, I don't know. I think Iris has been pretty good. Iris is a character that not too many people like, myself included to an extent, although I think she's been written better these past 2 episodes. She's not like the Team Flash leader. She's sort of just doing the the reporting thing. That's what she, should be doing. They didn't really lay it on too thick about Nora from last season, but they did mention it, which I thought was appropriate. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Carlos Valdez seems to be more settled in his role now. Last season, it was sort of like he had one foot out the door, and nobody really knew what the heck he was planning. Like, was he going to leave? Was he not going to leave? I don't know, but he seems like he's an integral part of the show this season, so I don't think we have to worry about him leaving. Ralph Dibny's character, the character of Ralph Dibny, I mean, it seems more integrated this season. He doesn't seem like he's just walking in and out of the room all the time. He seems like he's more of a consistent character. So again, it usually starts this way. The seasons do start very promising before things hit the skids. But yeah, high marks as well for The Flash so far. Of course, my favorite, John Wesley Shipp, was in the second episode with as Jay Garrick, with the actress who plays Barry's mom. I thought that was pretty cool that he's married to someone that looks like Barry's mom in Earth 3, I believe he's in. But always a pleasure to see John Wesley Shipp in the Flash series. I wish we could see more of him. I really hope, like, not to repeat myself, but I really hope we get a decent tribute to the 90s Flash in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't know just how much they can show of all these characters. They're going to squeeze so many of them in. Sip, sip. We got some root beer today. We're drinking in between. So if you hear the ice cubes clinking, it is not an adult beverage. It is root beer. All right, continuing on here with our talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths. They have recast. This is what bugged me. They recast the role of the Spectre, Jim Corrigan. Now, I say recast, and some of you are probably scratching your head. What do you mean recast, Johnnie Torch? You lost it. You don't know what you're talking about. He was never on the Arrowverse. But you forget that Constantine, who is in the Arrowverse, he had his own show, and they introduced Jim Corrigan on that show, and he was played by Emmett Scanlon, Emmett Scanlon. And Emmett Scanlon, of course, went on to play Lobo in Krypton, which I haven't heard any news about that yet. There was some talk it might go to Disney Universe, DC Universe, something like that. I'm not sure exactly if that's still in the cards, but yeah, he was cast as Emmett Scanlon, and I don't understand what. Well, I know why they're recasting him, because of the almighty diversity. Of course, as you see in this picture, Corrigan was a redhead, and we can no longer cast redheads. So enter, let's see, who's the actor here? Stephen Lobo. How about that for 6 degrees of separation? We're just talking about Lobo, and Emmett Scanlon playing Lobo, and Stephen Lobo is playing a character that Emmett Scanlon used to play, Jim Corrigan. Okay, let me read this here. Let's see. IGN is reporting that Stephen Lobo from Supernatural has been cast as Detective Jim Corrigan, a.k.a. the human host of the powerful cosmic entity known as the Spectre, for DC's upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. While the report does confirm Lobo will appear as Detective Corrigan, it unfortunately can't confirm whether or not we'll also see him suit up as the Spectre. Considering the crucial role the character plays in the comic storyline of the same name and the go big or go home mentality the CW has adopted for the crossover, it's probably a safe bet that fans will indeed see him don the green cloak. Following the announcement, executive producer Mark Guggenheim expressed teasing the Spectre's role in the coming battle. Fans of the Crisis on Infinite Earth comics knows the Spectre plays a pivotal role. We're thrilled Stephen is our Jim Corrigan. So, there you have it. What do you think? Yep. Like I said, I would have liked that from some continuity, but of course, we're dealing with Infinite Earths. They probably figure, why not just make him of a different Earth, and we don't have to have that question of, recasting and so forth. I do think it's interesting. We haven't heard about Mark Valley as Human Target. Now, they already recast the Human Target. And I was kind of disappointed in that as well, in the Arrowverse, because they could have just used Mark Valley's Human Target. And I've heard nothing about Mark Valley being approached to resume the role of the Human Target in the series. So that's kind of disappointing to me as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright, let's take a look here now at... As you may or may not know, I've been following the G.I. Joe, I guess reboot slash spinoff of Snake Eyes. And we've got some more Snake Eyes news today. Let's see, multiple sources are reporting that Samara Weaving, Ready or Not, and The Babysitter. I've never heard of either of these movies or productions. And Takiro Hira, Lost Girls and Love Hotels, have joined the cast of Paramount Pictures' upcoming G.I. Joe spin-off Snake Eyes. Let's see. Weaving will portray Scarlet, the red-headed counterintelligence officer that shares a unique bond with Snake Eyes. She takes over the role from Rachel Nichols, who previously played the character in G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. So this is disappointing to me because I really liked Rachel Nichols. And I really wanted to see her career take off more than it has. I mean, I don't know. What is she on, like, television doing? CSI number 175. You know, one of those shows out there, spin-offs of CSI. I mean, she was really great as Scarlet. But at least they've cast a actress here who I am guessing going to be a redhead. Because, you know, redheads are a rare commodity in Hollywood. They are usually race-bent characters if you are a redhead. So I am happy at least that they are trying to at least cast a redhead in this. I imagine she's going to have red hair. I don't know this actress from a hole in the ground, to be totally honest with you, but she looks kind of like a cross between Eva Green and Alice Eve, right? You kind of see that, yeah? I don't know. I guess she'll be alright. I gotta see more of her. You know, I gotta see her with the red hair and in one of those... Hopefully she gets the comic accurate costume this time too, instead of the generic black cat suit. You know, with the tan, like, bodysuit and then the dark arms and legs. You know, that would really be cool. I'd really like to see that. You know, because that's what I always say. It's 50% visual. Comics, cartoons, whatever. It's 50% visual. If you can't immediately identify with the actor and the costuming, if that doesn't betray who the character is, and you have to say sort of, well, you know, who is this character? It loses something. You're not really paying attention anymore. You're sort of taken out. And I think that's the danger when you're race-bending characters and you're not using the costumes, the accurate costumes. In the case of G.I. Joe, I wouldn't say it's a huge thing, unless you're talking about, you know, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and some of the guys that got more elaborate costumes. But definitely, again, race-bending characters, you take away half the appeal of that character when you don't recognize them, instantly recognize them. But we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later. Let me read the copy here. Alright. Details on Hira's role are currently unavailable. Again, I don't know who that is, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm just going to guess with a name like Takiro Hira. I'm going to guess he's Asian. I don't like going out on a limb like that. But I'm going to guess he's Asian, and I'm guessing he's probably going to be a ninja master or something for Snake Eyes, and possibly Storm Shadow, something like that. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. The film will star Henry Golding as the fan-favorite commando with a supporting cast that consists of Andrew Koji as Storm Shadow, Aiko Uwas as Hardmaster, and Yulsa Corbiro as the evil Baroness. Robert Schwenke. I can't make it through any of these casting updates without running into these two guys' names, and they crack me up every time. Robert Schwenke is directing with a screenplay from Evan Spiliotopoulos. And filming is expected to begin this week in Vancouver and will later move to Japan. So how excited are we for that? I am excited. I think there's a good chance they could ruin this, to be totally honest with you. Because, like I said, I don't believe Snake Eyes was Asian in the comics. I mean, I read them up until, like, through the 90s. And at that point, I don't think they ever said who was inside in the mask. And I never really went back to it, kind of. But that could be, like, I don't know, they're going to spend a lot of time with him without the mask on. You know, you could ruin it. You could potentially ruin a Snake Eyes movie. But it seems like they're doing everything right here. I mean, for a Snake Eyes movie to have Scarlet, Storm Shadow, I don't know if you really need the Baroness, but, you know, they seem to be making a world. I was afraid it was just going to be, well, Snake Eyes trains, he falls afoul of Storm Shadow, and then there's your movie. No, we got a lot of G.I. Joe characters going on here. I'd love to see Duke, because there was always that sort of... That's one of the things that disappointed me that they didn't do with the G.I. Joe movie, the first one. Rise of Cobra, that they didn't have sort of like a love triangle type thing, because Scarlet was sort of, she was sort of on Snake Eyes' side and sort of on Duke's side, and they really didn't do that with that movie. I also would like to see Destro, if they're going to have the Baroness in it. It would be interesting to see if they're like in cahoots about something. Alright, so there you have it. There we go. The Schwenke and Splotoclerosis law firm is hard at work and will be shooting soon. Very exciting. Alright, now let's take a look at some casting news here for Venom 2. Yes, Venom 2 is ramping up. They are going to be filming soon, and Andy Serkis is in the director's seat for Venom 2. Let's see. It has been revealed that Naomi Harris is being lined up to take on the role of Shriek. In the comics, she's a love interest to Carnage, so we can clearly expect their twisted dynamic to play out on the big screen as well. The actress is perhaps best known for playing the rebooted Tough as Nails Eve Moneypenny in the James Bond franchise. Race bent. She was also nominated for an Academy Award for her work in Moonlight. Now, I don't really know. I never followed the Carnage, Venom storylines in the comics. I don't know if this is a race-bent character. I don't know, because, you know, it looks kind of like the same thing they're doing with Domino and the Deadpool series, where they're just like, I don't know. I mean, this character from this image looks white, but it could be some kind of white makeup or some kind of alien. I don't really know what Shriek is, so I'm just going to reserve judgment and accept this for what it is. I mean, I am vaguely familiar with Harris, because I seen Skyfall. Yeah, I saw Skyfall, and she was in that, and she was good. I mean, you know, she had like maybe, was it one scene maybe? I don't know. But, you know, I'm open to it. Let's see. Let's hope it's a good... I don't know what the character is. She doesn't look like she's a symbiote, obviously. She kind of looks just like a normal person. I don't know, with a costume. I doubt we're going to see that costume as well. But, yeah, if you got any info that you'd like to share about the character of Shriek in the comics, I'm all ears. Let me know. I would like to hear. I'd like to hear from you. You and only you. Alrighty, so let's see. Here we go. This is a very important story that we should have got to last week, but I was kind of waiting for some confirmation, and I don't think the studio itself is confirming it, but Dennis Lawson, I believe Dennis Lawson's agent, is coming out and saying that, yes, Dennis Lawson's Wedge will be returning to the Star Wars universe for Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. So, as I comb for my notes here, let me see if I can have any Story details about this. Came out a couple of weeks ago, but it's just sort of a heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who. There's no real notes about this. Actually, I can't find the notes about this. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Let's see. One of the characters from Lucas' original Star Wars trilogy is set to return in the new film Rise of Skywalker. Multiple sources have confirmed that Episode 9, directed by Jar Jar Abrams, will bring back Luke's Rogue Squadron co-founder, Wedge Antilles. What's more is he'll be played by the same actor, Dennis Lawson, who appeared in A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. The actor's representative told podcast Rebel Force Radio that the leader will show up. News which has since led to theories about the possible reemergence of the old rebellion. Abrams previously asked Lawson to return in The Force Awakens, but the actor, who is Obi-Wan Kenobi star Ewan McGregor's uncle in real life, was unable to commit due to scheduling conflicts. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. I could have sworn the scuttlebutt going around at the time was that he was saying they really didn't have anything for him to do that made it worthy for him to come back. Meaning that he was probably going to get an Admiral Akbar-sized role where he would just give a couple of lines, fly in his little ship, and then die unceremoniously off-screen. And so the question really is, what would induce Dennis Lawson to come back at this state in the game, knowing full well just how bad Disney Star Wars has treated all his co-stars and fellow actors and characters? This is my answer anyway. This is my reaction. They drove a dump truck full of money to his house and said, look, we got next to nobody left. We got Billy D. We got some kid playing Chewbacca. We're going to try to double Anthony Daniels-sized role in this one. Come back. Here, take our money. Take all of it. And please, just give us a reason to coax maybe 2 more fans back into the seats for Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. Something about this movie, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to boycott it. I don't know if it's like just my curiosity's got the best of me in this. I don't know. I honestly don't know. We'll talk about that later, I guess. But what does it take for you to just give up on the franchise? I was watching Doomcock's video about canon and how that's so important, and I would recommend it to everybody. It's kind of a dense watch because, it's a half hour and there's a lot of, it's getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, which is good. But I mean, for those of you who are attention challenged, maybe you won't be able to get through it, but I did, and it really, the bottom line is it's really up to the viewer. You know what I'm saying? It's up to how much can you put up with. Many of us voted with The Last Jedi and said we're not going to see Solo, and Solo tanked. I saw Solo because I don't really think you can blame Solo for The Last Jedi. It was made by Ron Howard. It wasn't made by Rian Johnson. I could see maybe punishing The Rise of Skywalker by not going and seeing it if you're upset about The Last Jedi. But to me, it seemed like Solo wasn't the film to do that on. I think people just wanted to punish Disney, period. And that's, message received. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say... What I say is I have no interest in this film. I wouldn't say so much that I want to boycott it as much as I have no interest. Now, I know I'm probably going to get dragged along to it, and I'll probably see it, but the real question is going to be after this film. After this film, where do they go from there? I don't really know where you go after you completely ruin the Skywalker saga. That's all anybody really cared about. That's all I ever cared about. I'll put it that way. And in further news for Star Wars, Can you hear the glugs? I don't know. Can you hear the ice cubes? You know, very Cecil-esque. But, in further news, we have the final Episode 9 trailer. The Episode 9 trailer is going to be out, per tradition, during Monday Night Football's halftime show. So, if you are still interested in the show, in the series, the Skywalker Saga, be sure to tune in to Monday Night Football, where the Patriots will take on the Jets. Very exciting. I was just there, as I said last week, watching the watching the Patriots beat up on the Giants. Now the Patriots get to beat up on the Jets. So, good times for being a Patriots fan. Alright, so we'll leave it there. Let me know what you think. Are you finished with Star Wars? Are you going to give it one more shot at the theater? Just to see, you know, what you can do. So, let me see here. I'm trying to find our next story. Let's see. We're going to take these in sequential order, I guess. We'll start off with, oh yes, this is our Batman update. Things are really ramping up in the casting of the Batman movie. And in this case, we're going to start here with this is an interview that sent many Batman fans into a tizzy, including myself, if I'm going to be completely honest. It seems to me like Matt Reeves doesn't know the true Batman, you know what I mean? It seems like he's going off the same playbook that all Hollywood directors, with the possible exception of Christopher Nolan, have done. It sounds like he's trying to make Batman another anti-hero, another psycho killer, like Michael Keaton's Batman, like Zack Snyder's Batman. You know, Christopher Nolan's Batman paid a lot of lip service to Batman Doesn't Kill, and of course he ultimately ended up killing at the end of that series, but I like to forget a lot of The Dark Knight Rises, to be totally honest with you. All right, so this is the interview where Robert Pattinson. Let's see, who is he talking with here? Let's see, an interview with the New York Times. He's talking about his take on the iconic DC Comics superhero. Batman's not a hero, though, the actor argued. Dun dun dun. Batman's not a hero. I don't understand. What is this fascination with making Batman an anti-hero? You know what the fascination is? I swear. It's a two-pronged thing. It started with, to an extent, Frank Miller doing The Dark Knight Returns and the dark Batman and this and that. Everybody's seen Batman as just darker than dark. And I've never liked that. It's the same thing that they've done with the Joker, you know, with the new Joker movie, and the Joker has to be darker than dark. He's a psycho killer and this and that. They don't focus on the fun aspects of the character. They don't focus on the fact that this is a guy that dresses up like a bat and wants to scare the crap out of people. There's no real impetus from the character that cries out he is a killer. And then the second problem, after Miller sort of did a number on him, making people think that he was darker than dark, we got the Tim Burton Batman, which also, of course, had Batman as even as a kid, this drove me crazy. But he was sort of a monotone figure in the shadows, doesn't say much, just goes in there and kicks people's butts, and shows no mercy or compunction about doing it. That is not Batman to me either. Although, again, I always said that, you know, that movie sort of appeals to me more these days from nostalgia. And I do think Michael Keaton was very good with what he was given in those two films, but that's kind of the problem where we are at with Batman. People don't seem to get the idea that Batman is not a killer, that he tries to inspire good through means of a dark persona, but that doesn't really make he himself personally dark. You know what I mean? He's to sort of quote Bane, I guess he's adopted the darkness. He was never really born into it. he uses the darkness to his advantage. And I mean that, of course, in every sense of the word. Darkness in terms of light and shadow, but darkness in terms of he preys upon the fears of the fearful. He preys upon, you know, what they're afraid he'll do to them. And he doesn't cross that line, though. I don't think Batman would even, like, permanently cripple anybody. I mean, of course, he's known to get very violent if need be, but he has a good sense of where the line is, in other words. And I don't understand why Hollywood cannot seem to understand that, and they cannot grasp that. No matter how hard they try, no matter how many times they put Batman on the big screen, they can't get it right. Maybe this time, right? No, doesn't sound like it. He continues, Batman's a complicated character. I don't think I could ever play a real hero. There's always got to be something a little bit wrong. I think it's because one of my eyes is smaller than the other one. As for what excites him about Batman, he added, I love the director, Matt Reeves, and it's a dope character. His morality is a little bit off. He's not the golden boy, unlike almost every other comic book character. There is a simplicity to his worldview, but where it sits is strange, which allows you to have more scope with the character. Now, of course, this is where a lot of people will say, well, you know, let's give Pattinson a little bit of a break. You know, he's not saying that he's going to be a psycho killer and this and that. It's just that we know better, those of us who followed Batman on film, not the site so much as the actual films, since the late 80s. I mean, that's basically what they've done with Batman. They have a hard time getting true to the character's, you know, persona. Like I said, Nolan's Batman was the closest to that, and then they kind of did drop the ball at the end. Let's see. Pattinson admits the reaction was better than he expected. Maybe I'm just used to abuse by now, but at least I didn't get death threats this time. That's a plus. It's funny that people are so very angry about Twilight. I never particularly understood it. In other news, Mattson Tomlin has taken to Twitter to confirm that he's actually co-written the movie alongside Reeves. So, alright, does Pattinson's comments here give you pause? Are you concerned, as I am, that once again we're going to get ruthless, unfeeling, unpersonable Batman who's just out there to break necks and possibly a few legs and limbs and stuff, and not quite get the understanding the character? You know, it's like, how many times have we gone through this? It doesn't sound promising, but again, you know, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt over this, maybe. I don't know. Next up, this is the story, of course, that rocked the internet from way back when. Let's see. Zoe Kravitz is going to play Selina Kyle. Oh, yes. We are going to have that talk again. Okay, Hollywood? We're going to have that talk again. So sit down in that chair and let's get something straight. All right, so let me just read the copy first before I launch into the obligatory rant. Reports came in that Zoe Kravitz landed the role of Selina Kyle, Catwoman, in Matt Reeves' The Batman. Excuse me. Now, before we get started, I want you to remember that's the first line right there. Selina Kyle, Catwoman. She's got the role of Selina Kyle. Now, that's basically all the copy. I mean, I could read some more, but let's launch into this now. A lot of people took to Twitter and, of course, are like just amusing themselves to no end by saying, this is not the first black Catwoman, this isn't the first black Catwoman. We already talked about this last week, and I'm not going to repeat myself entirely, but I am going to point out once again. Halle Berry was not playing Selina Kyle. She was playing, I believe, I couldn't even sit through the whole movie, but my objection with Halle Berry's Catwoman was not that she was playing Catwoman. She was playing a different Catwoman. She was playing, I think, the Patience Price. I believe that was the name of her character. It's been a long time. I don't know. She was not playing Selina Kyle. So I had no problem with Halle Berry playing Catwoman, as long as she's not playing Selina Kyle, because Selina Kyle, of course, is a white character. And of course you have the people bringing up Eartha Kitt, who played Catwoman back in the 60s. And I've already made the explanation of this. We don't really know that that was Selina Kyle in the 60s. To be honest with you, none of the characters, with the strange exception of the Mad Hatter, used the accurate names from the comics of, you know, their real identities. So that's, you know, and I went on Twitter saying, you know, also we have a 60s Batman series that had 2 Riddlers, 3 Mr. Freezes, 3 Catwomen, and a Joker that had a mustache under his makeup. So if you really want to point to Batman 66 as sort of the gold standard of, you know, accurate casting, they had 3 vastly different looking Mr. Freezes. They had 3 relatively different looking Catwomen. I mean, you know, even Julie Newmar and Lee Merriweather didn't really look all that much alike. And in their approach to the character wasn't alike at all. You know, the Riddler. We had, I think Frank Gorshin was holding out for more money, and they got John Astin in for an episode. And John Astin had his mustache. I mean, he didn't look anything like the character. So he's seriously going to sort of put 60s Batman on the pedestal of accuracy. We can't. You know, it doesn't work that way if you're going to try to use that as your excuse. Let's see. Kravitz previously voiced the character in the Lego Batman movie. She joins Robert Pattinson as Pattinson. I always say Patterson. Like Floyd Patterson. No. She joins Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne Batman and Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Let's see. She also appeared in X-Men First Class. Well, that's the only thing I've actually seen her in, and to be honest with you, I would go out on a limb and say she's the worst part of that movie. You know, some people even would say January Jones was the worst actor in that movie. I think January Jones was still better than her. Let's see. She won the part after a rigorous testing process, which also saw Anna de Armas, Ella Balinskaya, and Isa Gonzalez read with Pattinson in the hopes of securing the highly sought-after role. Apparently, Zazie Beetz was one of Reeves' top choices, but prior commitments to Atlanta took her out of the running. Which would have been strange, seeing as how she's already in the Joker movie. You kind of, I don't know. I don't know if you want to cross-pollinate there like that. The rumored shortlist did the rounds last week, which included Tessa Thompson and Lupita Nyong'o. I saw, what's her name, Isa Gonzalez. She kind of looks a little more like Catwoman if they were going to go. But, you know, that's the thing. They had already come out and said that they were looking for a black woman to play Catwoman. And as I've said many times, that is the problem. You know, in the original days of the SJW casting and the woke casting, you know, we previously, previous to say probably 2000, the early 2000s, all casting was done where you took a look at the comic book character, you said, gee, this looks like this actress, and the casting directors would go out and try to find that actress, or maybe someone that looked like that actress. Then in the early 2000s, we had the point where we were, well, we just want the best actor for the role. We want the best actor or actress in this role. We're opening it up to everybody. And that was kind of annoying because it was like saying, well, look, we don't care if the actor even looks like the character. We're just going to pick someone because we think they're going to do a good job. Now, in some cases, that may have worked. I've always said one of the exceptions to the rule for me was Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin. I thought he was a fantastic choice, and it was one of those things where I could see, yeah, you know, if you brought him in for rehearsal, and I would say, yeah, he kind of like really has that Kingpin image down, but, you know, you fall victim to that too many times, and you find yourself completely, like I said, upsetting the apple cart of the visuals of the film. The visuals have to match the comics, otherwise you don't have the same reaction to it. You know, you have to have a visceral reaction to these things. I think, to his credit, Bryan Singer, when he cast Brandon Routh as Superman, he did say something like, Superman has to look like he stepped out of our collective consciousness. And I believed at the time that was a very strong statement. That was, you know, something that we could all, or at least Hollywood could learn from. If you cast Superman and he doesn't look like Superman, you are not going to connect to him. You're going to think, oh, this is so-and-so playing Superman. They had a lot of problems with that with Christopher Reeve, with the role back then, because they wanted, you know, the Hollywood bigwigs wanted Robert Redford, and they wanted Paul Newman, they wanted anybody they could that had a name, but they probably, you know, Donner pretty much stuck by his guns and said, look, we need an unknown, because you're just going to see Robert Redford flying in tights. It's not going to have the same connection to the audience. And I think the same thing is true when we talk about race-bending characters. It's very much like you can't connect to the character when they don't look like you've seen them look in the pages of comics for 70-plus years. So then we flash forward a little bit more, and now in the 20-teens, we have outright woke casting. We have... They're not even paying lip service to the fact that let's get the best actor for the role. We are making the short list through ethnicity. We want a black woman to play Catwoman. We want a black actress to play Black Canary. We want, and we actively look for actresses that'll fit the woke definition, but we are actively excluding actors, and mostly actresses at this point, from even being suggested, even being in the conversation. Again, we talked about this last week. We talk about this all the time because we're in the era of woke casting. This is just the way it is. And it's not going to end anytime soon, unfortunately. But as I said on Twitter, I think the problem is that, you know, we need fans in the black community to be more vocal. I think fans in the black community, there are many who dislike the race changes as well, but as long as Hollywood, you know, goes on Twitter and sees the yes, Queen slay, and the, you know, get mad and die, you know, the liberals, the lily white liberals, are not going to stop woke casting. And once I think the black community, you know, would take the stance that we're getting the sloppy seconds. You know, this isn't an insult to us. We don't want to take your white characters and have them black. We want you to make black characters, you know, and give them the spotlight. That's preferable. Okay, so now we're at the point where I'm starting to say, I think I've just about given up on Hollywood superhero movies. I think we're moving past the classic MCU phase. The 2000s were a pretty strong phase. Most of the 20-teens were a strong phase of giving us actors that represent the characters. Pretty much all the early Marvel movies, you know, we can go down the list. Robert Downey Jr. looked like Iron Man. Chris Evans looked like Captain America. Chris Hemsworth looked like Thor. There was really no, you know, fear or concern that they were not going to get actors that looked like the characters. Then as time goes on, some, you know, things like Jason Momoa playing Aquaman, kind of an eyebrow raiser. You know, I think the reason why people accepted that a lot more is probably because not only is he a sort of a gregarious character, you know, Jason Momoa, but also nobody really cares about Aquaman. I mean, for an A-lister, a supposed A-lister, I don't think anybody really put any stock in an Aquaman movie. And, you know, even Gal Gadot, you know, Wonder Woman really should look more Greek than Gadot did. You know, that's kind of maybe being a little picky there. But, you know, so, you know, it's one of those things where we could see that the trend was starting to go in that direction, and now we're at the point where it's just all-out woke casting. I mean, 10 years ago, they were casting supporting roles with people of color, you know, and it was Perry White is of course black now because we need to have a black character in the movie, and well, you know, let's change Perry White, who's been around for 80 years. And a lot of fans are like, well, you know, no harm, no foul, whatever, and stuff. And then we get to, like, another 5 years, 8 years later, whatever, and now it's, if you notice the pattern, it's the leading ladies are all getting race changed. We have MJ is black, Catwoman is black, the Selena Kyle Catwoman is black. We have Black Canary is black. We have... You know, it's the SJWs in Hollywood trying to figure out what they can get away with the most. And I think there's a drag racer on the street here as usual. I think that they went from phase one, which is let's just plug in a supporting character of a different ethnicity and race change that character, to let's race change the leading lady, because you're still going to have that star be whatever he is. You know, if it's Batman, he's still white. If it's Superman, he's still white. If it's whatever, he's still white. But we have, you know, also advanced the agenda, the SJW agenda, by changing a major character. It's not Perry White anymore. It's not Nick Fury. Now it's Catwoman. Now it's Mary Jane. And I could see clearly that where this is leading is to see how much fans will put up with this. The SJWs are hoping that, well, you know, they're not going to not see Batman because Catwoman's black. They're not going to not see Spider-Man because MJ is black. So we're still going to make the money off them, even though they're not getting what they really signed up for. And the next stage, the next phase, if you will, is going to be casting the lead actor as black, or whatever they choose to do. I mean, they don't seem to be brave enough to try to choose an Asian actor or actress to race change. It seems to be always black. I mean, that's just the SJW agenda, I suppose. But the complaint would be if it was any of these other characters would be changed with a different ethnicity, it would still be the same complaint from purists like myself, at least. But so anyway, that's why I've decided. I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I am not going to support these movies anymore. And it's going to be up to everyone, all the fans, as to what is the quote-unquote straw that broke the camel's back. When is the race-changing, race-bending, not using the right costumes, when is this going to be the final straw for you? For me, I think it's now. I think I kind of learned my lesson with Spider-Man. They've got a Spider-Man now in the MCU that is completely devoid of anything that makes him Spider-Man to me. It's just Tom Holland's a good actor, and he's completely in a, you know, a culturally diverse Disney sitcom. That's what it is. It's not even Spider-Man anymore. And from the looks of it, we're not getting a Batman that's going to be, you know, it's not going to be completely faithful to the Batman lore. I mean, we've got, supposedly he's not a hero. We've got Black Catwoman, Black Commissioner Gordon, probably going to be a Black Batgirl, unless they want to say that he adopted a daughter or a niece or something. I don't know. So I think I'm done. I don't think I'm going to support these movies anymore with the race changes. And it's difficult. I understand it's difficult to make that commitment. Because now, you know, it's disappointing enough for me as it is, because now we're saying, look, I'm not going to get a Catwoman that looks like I want her to look for at least another 10 years. It was tough enough with Anne Hathaway, because I really didn't like Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. She was all right. I'll give her that much. And so it was like, oh, okay, now I gotta wait another 10 years for another Catwoman. And now we don't have a comic-accurate Catwoman. And so now it's like, well, I gotta wait another 10 years for, you know... But they're not going to get my money if they're not going to give me the characters depicted as I want. If they're not going to give us, the accurate casting, they're going to push the woke agenda and the SJW narrative. I'm going to walk. It's the same thing as Comicsgate and how they were changing all the characters in the comics and, whatever, female Thor, Asian Hulk, Black Captain America, whatever they do. It's like there comes a point when the fans don't want to see it anymore. In the case of Spider-Man, they didn't make her Mary Jane, but alright, for all intents and purposes, it's Mary Jane. It's MJ. You think he's going to find another woman with the same initials that's a redhead with freckles and green eyes? Probably not. This is the MJ we've got for this period until 10 years go by, and we'll see what the climate of Hollywood is then. By then, maybe it'll be a black Batman and a white Catwoman. Who knows? But, again, like I said, I don't think a lot of people want to take this... they don't want to take this position because, every time you say something like this, it's like, oh, it's about race, isn't it? So you must be a racist. So it has to do with comic accuracy. It has to do with being faithful to the creator's wishes. And you're not being faithful to what was originally created. And I felt that way about a lot of changes in comics. And we were talking about Batman '89, making the Joker the killer of the Waynes and this and that. It doesn't endear to purists when you do things like this. And the purists are the ones who followed the comics this long. They followed these characters for so long, and you want to see them represented accurately. Now, come on, let's take a look at this image here where we have Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer, even though the character was not written extremely well, she did embody the character of Catwoman and was the Catwoman for a full generation. A whole generation of fans grew up with Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. They didn't tend to make her kind of psycho-crazy because that's part and parcel of the Tim Burton universe, I guess. But she looked like Catwoman and behaved like Catwoman. And it's one of those things where it's like we haven't had a good Catwoman since Michelle Pfeiffer. It's sad to say. Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was written a little bit better, but I still didn't like it. Part of it is because I'm not crazy about Hathaway as an actress, but the other part of it is that it wasn't written very well either. She seemed far too callous. I know Catwoman isn't really the most endearing character, but she seemed fairly... the way I always put it was I couldn't see what Bruce saw in her, to be totally honest. Alright, so let's move on now. I gave my obligatory rant, and let's just move on now. I'm sure I'm going to have to talk about... I'm sure I'm going to have to talk about race-changing characters again at some point, because it's just we're stuck smack dab in the middle of woke Hollywood casting. And it's just going to go on like this. I think if the MCU is doing anything better than the DCEU, it's that they're not changing the existing characters. They're going through that phase that the Marvel Comics did, which is, we're not changing Steve Rogers to be black. We're making Captain America black because now he's Sam Wilson. You know what I mean? That kind of thing is an easier pill to swallow than just saying, oh, you've read Catwoman comics for, the last, 30 years of your life or whatever. Now we're making her black. That's a tougher pill to swallow because it's like, I know this character and she's supposed to look like this. So in the long run, is the MCU going to outlast the DCEU with people like myself that are just kind of fed up to the point of just walking away? I don't know, but I am very curious to know if you are at that point as well. Are you willing to walk away, or are you going to say, well, as long as it's still Batman, I'm going to go see Batman because Batman's my favorite character? Or are you going to say, no, this doesn't really represent the comics, and if the only way you'll listen to me is by me keeping my wallet at home, then that's the way it's going to be, so be it. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Is this the point, or what will it take you to get to that point? I think I'm at that point now. Like I said, when I saw Far From Home, and it was no better than Homecoming, and seeing what's on the horizon here for Batman and Birds of Prey, and I think I'm done. You know, I just think I'm done. There's enough good stuff to watch that I don't feel like I'm going to miss anything not going to the theater to see it. And then, you know, as things play out now, it'll be on Blu-ray or something in 3 months. Rent it or something like that. I'll still see it, but, you know, if you're not getting me excited to get into the theater to see it, which 90% of these, you know, films and projects aren't exciting anymore, you know, I just don't see what's the point. I really don't. All right, also in Batman news, let's take a look at this. We also got the Riddler cast, and arguably he's the most accurate casting of all of them. All right, let's see. Warner Brothers announced that Golden Globe nominee Paul Dano, Bookham Dano, has joined the cast of Matt Reeves' The Batman in the highly coveted role of the Riddler. However, unlike his previous live-action appearances, the alter ego of Dano's version of the Riddler will be named Edward Nashton, not Edward Nygma, which actually lines up with the character's origin story in the comics. So, this is another thing that bothers me about this movie. Now, Edward Nashton is actually a name from the comics because I think it was in the 80s, was it, when they did a reboot? It was like their first big reboot, I think after Crisis on Infinite Earths, where they were like, Edward Nygma's too jokey of a name. We can't call him Ed Nygma and be serious. So they call him Edward Nashton, which to me sounds even more ridiculous. It sounds like he should be, you know, dressed, you know, in an Elvis sequin suit and with a guitar or something. Thank you, everybody. This is Edward Nashton, and I'm going to sing a couple songs for you. But that's the whole thing. And then I think eventually he adopted the persona of Enigma because of, you know, Enigma, and, you know, that sort of struck his fancy to call himself Nygma after the word enigma. But, you know, keep it fun, keep it funny. You know, Enigma was a pretty interesting, you know, bit of irony, and that he would become the master of puzzles and riddles after finding his name being Enigma would be such an iconic connection. You know, that's probably the least of the problems this film will have, but, you know, it's still a problem. Let's see. This casting news comes a day after talks broke down with Jonah Hill, which seemingly suggests that Reeves and the studio were already high on Dano prior to ending negotiations with Hill. Let's see. Pre-production has already begun, with filming set to commence at the end of this year and or within the first few weeks of 2020. Dano's past credits include Escape at Dannemora, Okja, War and Peace, Swiss Army Man, Love and Mercy, 12 Years a Slave, Prisoners, Looper, Cowboys and Aliens, Night and Day, There Will Be Blood, and Little Miss Sunshine. Also, Hawaii Five-0. No, I added that part in myself. The Batman hits theaters June 25th, 2021. So, expect to hear a lot more casting news in the near future. Also here in the Batman news, we also have it confirmed that Michael Giacchino will be scoring the film. He's reuniting with Matt Reeves to score the Batman. So Giacchino's pretty good. I think that's a good choice. You don't really have too many great heroic themes anymore for superhero films. It's a shame, because that used to be the, you know, that was the bread and butter of a superhero picture back in the day. Superman's theme song, iconic. Batman's theme song, a classic. He even got another iconic one, I thought, Batman, when they did Batman Forever, and they did, you know, sort of that new version of the Batman theme song. That wasn't too bad, but at least it was iconic. All right, I don't know this guy from Adam. Originally, I said he kind of strikes me more as the Mad Hatter. I could see him with the sort of Jervis Tetch outfit on and stuff, but, you know, I imagine he'll probably do good as the Riddler. Hopefully he gets a Riddler costume similar to the one here on the left. You know, I don't want them to just have him being in suits and, you know, putting some greasy kid stuff in his hair. You know, just give him the green suit with the question marks. You know what I mean? That's Ed with the cane and the roller derby, and I'll be happy. But again, I think it's time to walk away from a lot of these projects. I mean, I was really excited about the Batman at first because I said, you know, here we got a chance to actually do something spectacular with the character. You're going to introduce a whole plethora of villains. We're going to have the whole stage set for the ongoing universe where, you know, we'll introduce Nightwing, we'll introduce Batgirl, we'll have, you know, a couple of different Robins come and go. And now it's like, I don't know, it's just, they're not going to get it right. We already know they're not going to get it right. We're already playing games fast and loose with the Batman lore. I don't know. It's just kind of disappointing, to say the least. All right, so let's wrap it up here. We'll wrap it up at that. We've gone a bit over our scheduled time here. We usually try to keep it about an hour. We got going almost an hour and a half. If you stuck with me all this time for this ranting and railing, I hope you enjoyed it. If not, try us again next week, and maybe there won't be any more race-changed characters or stupid mess-ups with established characters. Well, that's life. Such is life for the purest superhero fan. But I want to thank you once again for joining me here on the only way to spend your Saturday, here with us on Johnnie Torch Live, the Torch News Roundup. And, gee, I always say this, I'd like to do another show. I don't know when. I'd like to do another show, like I said, about the comic. I want to do another show about writing. I love to do, you know, tweets about writing and stuff. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I'll see if I can fit in another show one of these days in the middle of the week. Also, you know, I want to do that Bible broadcast and talk about the Bible. I did actually get halfway through one, and thankfully I was recording it, not streaming it, because I end up getting called away halfway through it. And I still have it there. It's about 20 minutes of content, but then I had to stop it because something was going on. I had to leave. But so maybe we can do that Bible broadcast one of these days. If I ever get back to it, it's a lot of work. Like I said before, it's a lot of work because you got to have your scripture verses ready and all kinds of stuff. But if you enjoy talking about comics and heroes and pop culture and so forth, be with us again, same time next week, same time, same channel, for some more exciting goodness. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you share, subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. Let your friends all know that we are a go every week at this time. So until we meet again next, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.